We are live and ready on Twitch. Just gonna post on the social media stuffs that we're live.
We got Twitter, we got Facebook, we got Instagram, we got
I post on all of the social medias.
Periscope, Snapchat.
You know, my dad likes to point out it's not social medias. Media is a plural already. I'm like, I know, but it's more fun to say medias.
There are certain words where people do that. I can't. See, I feel like I would know if you had not told me that. I would know that you were just kidding. But there's other people that do it that just don't know. That irritates me.
I would hope you would understand that I was just joking around.
I would like to think so.
But you never know. People are stupid.
Anyway. So, is this the podcast where you just get grumpy and upset? You know about people.
People are dumb.
Oh, what you eating, Ian?
Gum.
I guess technically you're not eating it, then you're chewing.
I'm chewing the gums.
Oh, gosh.
Just don't smack it in the microphone, man. That will kill it. No microphone smacking. You know, they say your video can look horrible as long as the audio is okay. People don't care. And it's very true. You can
we can test that theory today.
My microphone's pretty far away.
Well, if the microphone was closer and the gain was down, it would have a clearer sound. Just saying.
We aren't doing ASMR on this podcast?
No.
Dang, you got schooled, Ian, by Koricon. That's Koricon 1, Ian 0. And even if you did school Koricon, he would just mute you because he can't get schooled.
Because it's my channel and I'm God and I have all of the power.
Because he's a baby and he doesn't like to lose.
I don't think you know what you're doing anymore.
No, I don't.
All right, so I guess we'll get started. You know, we got to get used to the fact that most of the time on Twitch, nobody's going to join the stream. Everybody's watching this on YouTube later.
Yeah, YouTube's and the SoundClouds and the...
Yep. Actually, we're getting more on SoundCloud than we are on YouTube. So those of you listening to the podcast of this, thank you very much for your support. I appreciate it. And
who do you like more? And the other two will just be dropped off and then become a solo show.
Yeah, that people don't mind. They just come for me. You guys are extra.
Yeah. Hey, soon if we get a third person from Red Fist, people think that Red Fist bought Koricon.
No, just that Koricon's a very nice guy and giving these small dudes a little bit of...
We don't have the budget to buy out the show.
Yeah, I don't have just like I don't have the budget to pay you for being on it. So the reason we're talking about Dredd is it went in the news recently, and it's kind of connected to Annihilation, which you guys may have heard us talking about on a previous episode of this. Pete Travis is written down as the director of Dredd, but it was written by Alex Garland, the director of Annihilation and Ex Machina. But Carl Urban was doing a interview a few days ago, last week, and of course, whenever he's doing an interview, someone always comes up with the point of, when are you going to do a Dredd 2? Because Dredd has become kind of a cult classic now. You know, it's got its own fan following, just like Evil Dead or something like that. And he said, I would love to do it, and was mentioning Alex Garland. And the reason is he said, you know, people should know that Alex Garland actually directed Dredd. So we knew that there was some production problems in the background during Dredd. And I was thinking about this. when there have been many times in the past where a director ends up getting fired or is not working on a movie, and it goes on with the Directors Guild rules. Two of the rules in the Directors Guild that always seemed to bother me was, one, you can only have one director listed unless they're related. So that's why you see like Coen brothers, Wachowski brothers. You don't, but you don't see two individuals with different last names, except for Sin City. And that was because Robert Rodriguez wanted to give credit to Frank Miller for coming in and helping him direct Sin City. But the Directors Guild said, you cannot do that. You can only have one name as the directed by. So Robert Rodriguez left the Directors Guild. He basically gave him the middle finger and left, and then put Frank Miller's name alongside his as the director. So if you watch that, it's one of the few movies that has two directors listed in the credits.
Another one I can name is Longest Day. It has 3.
Was that before the Guild's rules?
I believe so, but I know that's the movie with a British director, an American director, and a German director to get all 3 sides.
Right. Yeah, it could be before the rules, or I'm not sure. I need to study up on that one. But so what happened with Dredd is Pete Travis, I guess, wasn't doing his job, or maybe he got fired, and to get credit for a movie, you have to have directed at least, I think it was like 40% of the movie to get credit for it. Or the Directors Guild just, allows you to have that name. Well, Alex Garland, being the screenplay writer, he was always on set. The same thing kind of happened with Fan 4-Stick, when Trax was not showing up to set or whatever. The script writer, who's there every day, ended up having to direct the scenes that they were doing because the director wasn't there. And I think it was kind of the same thing with Dredd. Alex Garland was there every day on the set. Either the director didn't show up or wasn't doing his job, and so Garland stepped in and directed the movie. But the studio's not going to put his name on the film because he's never directed a movie before. And it would look bad on the studio, so they put Pete Travis's name on it. So in that vein of us unofficially accepting that Dredd was the first movie directed by Alex Garland and not Ex Machina, I wanted to review Dredd. So you guys got to see it.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Very quick initial thoughts. What did you think, Matt?
You might have heard about this, but I will just say this, and we can get into details. It was too much like The Raid.
It was very much like The Raid.
And I love The Raid. The Raid's probably my top 10 favorite martial art movies, which is, a lot of, but yeah, it was too much like The Raid. I'll get into details later about...
Well, no, a lot of people agree that it's a lot like The Raid. Very much so. Going up the building, taking out people on every floor. I mean, there are obvious differences, but the core storyline is basically The Raid.
We'll get into it more about that, because there are like certain scenes that they just steal from that I'll talk about. But Ian, what did you think?
So I watched it today, a couple hours ago. I've not seen The Raid, so I can't compare it to that film. But it was very violent and actiony, but it was pretty good. And the cast was, pretty interesting, seeing Carl Urban, who I've known from, the Lord of the Rings movies. And then
Game of Thrones.
Lena Headey from Game of Thrones. And of course, Domhnall Gleeson makes an appearance in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I was gonna say, Donald Gleason, this kind of foreshadows the fact that Alex Garland was the true director of Dredd.
Yeah.
Because he used him in Ex Machina.
We've now reviewed a movie with all three actors from Ex Machina, so it's almost like we need to review that movie now.
Just do all of the Garland movies. Yeah. Well, going with the cast, forget it. Let's get into a little bit of details. I love the movie. I understand that it's basically a remake of The Raid, except with different characters and slightly different story and other elements, but the core is pretty much The Raid. However, remakes of movies are getting made all the time. I don't know if they credited The Raid or the writers from The Raid, but it may be different enough that they don't have to. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I thought was interesting, so this is based on a comic book, and it's probably one of the most famous British comic books. A lot of people think this is an American comic book, and it's not. It's a British comic book. And but it takes place in America. I thought that was interesting.
And then it probably lost a lot of popularity in the 90s thanks to Stallone.
Yeah, Stallone. But it wasn't just Stallone's fault. I mean, we had some really interesting comic book movies in the 90s. You had Tank Girl. That one was interesting, too. You had...
We had the Marvel's attempts like Fantastic Four, Captain America.
Yeah.
The straight to VHS or never to be seen.
Well, and then you also had movies that were kind of comic book but not based on one, like Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah.
Which was
Dark Man.
Dark Man, which that was a graphic novel.
Oh.
But that was Sam Raimi putting his touch on it. I like that movie. The first one. The sequels, not so much, but they're interesting.
But, Ian, have you seen Judge Dredd, the one with Stallone?
I have not.
I am the law.
So it's not good.
No,
Okay.
it is good if you understand the context that it's not good. It's a fun, bad movie to watch.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it.
But I would say probably the best part about Dredd is he never takes his helmet off.
That's what I was gonna say. How many movie stars do you know that are willing to wear a helmet that covers half their face for the entire movie? I mean, nobody. And so what are you doing, dude?
What are you saying, Matt?
RoboCop.
Oh,
Yeah.
rope.
But he wasn't a famous actor at the time.
I know. No, I'm just saying, like, even like, I mean, like, that's the only one I can think of.
Yeah,
I can think of the
RoboCop.
opposite. Like Jennifer Lawrence in the new X-Men movies where she has to be herself for the majority of the film.
Because she doesn't like the makeup.
Yeah.
Now, with RoboCop, you can argue he does have his helmet off.
Yeah, I mean, he takes it off at the end to fight. But hey, when you
when he's also, in the second one, he's trying to figure out how to fire his weapon again. He doesn't have it on.
That's in the first one.
First one, yeah, sorry. There's a few times where he doesn't have it on. But
Yeah.
there's not very many actors that would do that role. Like, even if they did RoboCop again. Because in the new one, he had his helmet off all the time. They were constantly showing his face. But with Dredd and the original RoboCop, and maybe a handful of other movies, a big-name actor wouldn't want to do the role just because their face is covered up most of the time.
Yeah.
Just like Rorschach in Watchmen. You never get to see Jack Earl Haley's face. You just know that he's Rorschach. And I think that was a good decision on Carl Urban's part. Everyone knows it's him.
Yeah.
It's not like they're hiding it's him. They're not trying to pretend it's a different actor.
like once you see his name, and then you see him, you're like, oh, okay, we got it. That's
Yeah,
it.
and you can see it in his speech and his mouth It's very apparent.
I mean, it's like watching an animated movie. It's not like Dwayne Johnson in Moana like has to show his head on Moana for like a couple of seconds to let you know, hey, it's the I'm actually voice acting this.
Right. But it is cool that he never took his helmet off, and he basically stayed as the character through the whole film. And the film didn't, it had a simple story, and it pretty much just took place in that one location. So you didn't have this huge story arc of any kind, big character piece. It was more of just, here is a story with this character, kind of like The Raid and some other films like that, where they take place in one location and it's just a moment with that character. You have some character growth, but you don't have like his origin story and how he became a judge and all this stuff. They basically just said he's a judge. He's a well-known, probably famous judge. And then you have this girl come in and they go and start killing people.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously, that is my favorite part about the movie is that you don't see his face, but going more into the Raid. So the Raid, Ian, for I don't know how much you know about it, or for anyone else, it was a
I think you showed me some clips from it, but that's about all I've seen.
It's a 2011 movie from Indonesia, I think. Yeah, it's not from Thailand. Where is it?
No, I think it might be Indonesian.
Okay, so I am right. Okay.
Indonesia.
Okay, sweet. I am right. Okay, cool. So it's a 2011 movie from, made in Indonesia, and it's about like this entire police squad who has to take out like this pretty famous drug dealer in the area, and they have to go through this entire building, and they find out that it's a trap, and it comes down to like a couple people, and they have to go through the entire building, and like. That was my biggest problem, was because I love that movie. It was hard for me to get into the story or into any of it when, like, there's a scene where you see, like, five or six guys with, like, guns. Dredd and the girl, Anderson, they hide in a room, and there's a girl who's like, oh, okay, you can hide in this room. And they go, I'm like, that is literally in the Raid.
Yeah.
Like, it's like like the first 45 minutes is just so similar. It's hard to be invested.
Get into the movie.
Yeah.
But what I would want to say is there's so many remakes and stories that are similar to each other. Why does that matter? As long as they give credit and people understand that it's a similar storyline, why would it matter so much? If it's good, it's good.
It's not the fact that it's more of like, okay, if they took the idea going through a tower and kicking the crap out of a bunch of people, fine. That happens in many movies. It happens in Game of Death. It happens in The Raid. It happened in this movie, and so on and so forth. And my problem is like, the villain was very similar, drug dealer who had this crazy tower, a bunch of stuff. She went over the intercom telling to kill the judges. He did the exact same thing in the movie. You see shots of everyone getting together, kind of like it's the Warriors getting ready to beat the crap out of the judges, just like in the Raid.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, why does it matter if it's the same? If it's still a good movie, it doesn't matter. I mean, Avatar is basically Fern Gully, but people still love Avatar.
But I don't like Avatar.
Well, what I'm saying is, if it's good, it's good. It doesn't matter if it's similar to another movie or not. If you like it, you like it. Now, as long as you give credit, you should say the Raid came first. Absolutely. But I mean, Dredd it has a lot of similarities to The Raid. I mean, I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying that it was still a fun movie, and it doesn't matter if it had any if it had similarities or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't take anything away from the raid. You know, it doesn't make the raid worse or better.
Yeah. But, getting away from the similarities, an actual problem I did have in terms of, like, just stuff. I wish the judges that came in were more of a threat.
I agree. I think the judges were a little too easy to take out. Like, I understand that Judge Dredd is supposed to be, like, the best of the best. But other judges should still be, really good because they've got to be doing the same job. And they got 4 of them in there.
Yeah.
You would think that they would do. And then you had the rookie being able to take out one of the long-time judges. It should have been a lot harder for her to do stuff. But yeah, I agree. I think the 4 judges that came in were, maybe they were the runt of the litter, like the worst. Maybe they were the worst judges and nobody's going to miss them now. But they did seem like they were easily
They were probably
beaten.
the most desperate because they were in it for the money. You know? But I agree they should have been more threatening.
But it also means that they've been around for a really long time. Like they talked.
Yeah, because they said like 20 years.
Yeah, they talked like veterans. You're not going to stay that long if you weren't good. So why did they die so easy? I think it would have been better if they had just 2 judges that came in. Just have 2 judges come in and then be really hard to take out.
Yeah.
Instead of having 4 and 2 of them basically died. I think Judge Dredd just pretty much killed them both around the same time.
Like that guy with that shotgun, he doesn't even shoot once. He's just like a common criminal.
Now,
And
I did like the fight between Dredd and the first guy.
Yeah.
Where he like ends up hitting him in the throat with the butt of the gun. I liked that.
Brushes it.
That was pretty intense.
But at least they made a decent fight scene out of that guy.
Yeah.
The others pretty much died as easy as the drug dealers.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things so I totally agree with you. I think those judges were too easy to take out. But I did like Lena Headey as the bad drug dealer lady. I thought she did a great job. And she's really good at playing evil. Like, she's good as Cersei in Game of Thrones. But when I see interviews with her, she's like a very sweet, nice lady.
Yeah.
Very soft-spoken, very sweet, nice lady. And she does such a good job of playing these, like, horrendously awful people. But I liked her. I liked the way she did her character. And I liked the fact that they used this drug called slow-mo basically as an excuse for doing some of the
slow motion.
Yeah, the filmmaking. There's a lot of action movies out there that use slow-mo as a stylistic way of filming. But to incorporate the reason for it in the script, I thought was smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you think, Ian, of, I guess, the action or, just, in general, outside of, just the basic thoughts?
As far as the action went, I thought that it was cool that Dredd's gun, like, he could switch up whatever he was going to use to shoot people. I like that they incorporated that he also could run out of ammunition, which isn't something that you see a lot. The other thing that I really liked was that Anderson has like the psychic powers, so that it wasn't just she was, even though she was out of her depth, she wasn't so out of her depth that she just wasn't useful and just standing by the whole time.
Yeah, so. She did contribute.
I think I'd probably seen a trailer for Dredd when it came out a long time, like in 2012, but I don't remember her being a part of the movie. I just remember seeing Judge Dredd. So I thought she brought an interesting like way into the story, but also like an interesting dynamic to the plot. So
Yeah, the other Judge Dredd was Stallone. They didn't have anything like that, any psychics or whatnot, but they did have cyborgs. You know, they had a lot of people with cybernetic. They basically were big monsters. But in this one, they had what they called mutants.
yeah.
You know, the guy said, you're put together really nice for being a mutant. You don't have a third arm and other things like that. So if they ever do a sequel, I would like to see some of these mutants that they're talking about.
I mean, I feel like they could easily do a sequel. I mean, because this one, you know, doesn't really go anywhere outside of this one building. You kind of got a lot of room to.
Yeah, you have a lot of story that you could play on.
Yeah.
A lot of characterization you can get into. I don't want them to go backwards. I know there's a lot of movies that are like, oh wow, this movie did well, we should do a prequel to explain who these characters are. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. Just do another awesome story with Dredd doing awesome stuff. That's what we want to see. Especially with the... Go ahead.
Another thing that I really liked about it, and I think we'd already touched on it, was like how contained the story was. Like, I feel like in a universe like this, with all the sci-fi elements and things like that, it would have been really easy to make it into like, you know, Lena Headey's characters trying to take over the entire city. Like, that seems something really easy to go into.
Well,
but they kept it smaller, and I think that really helped.
They did touch on the fact that she was going to. Like, they said in there that they could take over the city. And they had plans of expanding the drug into the different areas so that she could take more territory than just a building. But it never got farther than that conversation. And I agree with you. It could have easily become like a Blade Runner style, huge, epic kind of storyline that probably wouldn't work because they would try to bite off more than they could chew. So I'm glad that they kept it simple. Especially a movie like this. I mean, it's supposed to be a fun, violent action movie. Don't think too deep on it, man. Just have fun with your action movie.
And it's only an hour and 20 minutes. You get in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have a good time and that's it. You know, that's what I liked. It kind of, I know this sounds a lot different, but when you had The Bride of Chucky, so you had, you had the first Child's Play was really good. Second one was okay. Third one, not so much. When they made the fourth one, Bride of Chucky, they embraced the fact that it was a silly, fun horror movie. You know, they even made fun of themselves in the horror movie. To be self-aware and making your movie target the audience exactly who you're looking for, and Dredd did that great, I thought. They gave you the hyper-violence. They gave you the one-liners. They gave you a character that was just basically indestructibly awesome, kind of person with a, really bad villain. What more do you need, right?
It definitely has that B-movie feel. Especially with those effects.
Well, and they are a little bit dated.
They kept going to that elevator building shot. I'm like, just go back into the interior shots.
But some of the violent scenes were pretty interesting. Like the slow-mo of a bullet going through a cheek and then exploding.
Oh yeah, ripping out that cheek. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of. I mean, it's definitely the most violence I've seen in an action movie in years. I can't think of a movie in the last 6 years from America like that.
Yeah, I mean, the movie basically opens with the bad guy skinning 3 people and throwing them 200 stories to a splatter on the ground.
Which I will say that was a pretty good splat in terms of ratings of
It was.
judging splat.
Yeah.
I still think my favorite's in Bruges when Brendan Gleeson drops and like literally like Humpty Dumpty's on the ground.
That's a great movie.
Oh yeah.
I like that movie. And I also like the addition, so like the slow-mo drug. Not only was it smart for doing all of that stylized filmmaking, giving an excuse, and I really love it when they give excuses for things, you know, giving an excuse for an over-the-top action scene or giving an excuse for slow-mo, that kind of stuff. But it was a neat addition of giving them the slow-mo and then throwing them off. So from their point of view, their death was taking a lot longer. I thought that was cool. You know, it's a little bit like an added torture, I guess.
That would suck. But so they were still alive after being skinned?
Well, they were screaming the whole time.
Because wouldn't like that much, because isn't like, wouldn't that much, I mean, obviously, once again, I'm thinking too much about this. And
well,
the fact that you're being...
Even if they died during the skinning, you know, they gave them the slow-mo before they started. So they would have been feeling and experiencing being skinned alive for a very long time in their own head. That's torture, man. It's violent. I love it.
I think my favorite use of the slow-mo was when the 2 like random drug dealer kids like go into the place and they're doing the drugs and then they bust open the door and you can like see the air like moving as the door is moving and you watch the thing go through the air, which would have been kind of cheesy, but it was still pretty cool.
Well, when the door explodes, I think you're talking about that scene, right?
Yeah.
There's one shot that impressed me, and I want to know how they did it. I'm guessing it's an air cannon, but it would really hurt the stuntman. Where you see his stomach, the skin getting pushed.
Like he's like, yeah.
Getting pushed in. Now, I would assume they filmed it at a high frame rate and did like an air gun onto a stuntman's stomach. But the force that it did... Man, it moved. It moved a lot of his skin out of the way. I'm like, that is a powerful, even if it's an air gun, that's a powerful blast. And I thought that looked really good. It's always been stuck in my head of like, damn. I would love to see it behind the scenes on that.
I am very stunned, Ian, that you watched this movie and are talking about what's happened to you.
We decided we're gonna watch it, so I did.
Why?
I know, but like I was watching it, I was like, this is really violent.
But you don't like violent movies?
Well, I haven't. Matt tried to get me to watch RoboCop once, and he wanted me to
make
watch.
him a man.
Yeah, he wanted me to watch the unrated version, and the practical effects in that are like next level. So I mean, it feels more real than this movie does.
Yeah.
So like, that's the one thing for me. It's like this movie is good, but like I'm like, okay, they did all this in the computer, so I don't have to feel as bad because I know they did it in computer.
Because you're not seeing like someone's hand raise up and it's like a scissor because their arm was just blown off.
RoboCop did take the makeup artistry to a whole other level. That's for sure.
It's yeah, but I think another thing, because obviously this entire movie is action, so I mean that's what we're probably going to be obviously talking about the most is the action. A lot of the action set pieces I did not really like, but I mean also that's a preference because I'm not a run and gunner type of. I don't like shoot 'em up movies a whole lot, outside of like what I've seen of Die Hard and like, you know, the classic like 80s shoot 'em up movies. But like and a lot of the action set pieces weren't really memorable. And I think part of it was because, like, Judge Dredd didn't get hurt until the end, and that was after just, like, easily destroying, like, the other judges. It's like, I want to see someone who can take on him. Like, do they have to, like, are we going to find out that Mega Block or Metro City or what's the city called?
Is it like Mega City 1?
Yeah, Mega City 1. Like, we're going to find out this is Detroit. Like, RoboCop is going to roll up, and, like, you know, is it RoboCop versus Dredd that we're going to have to, like, see an actual fight? Because, like, I would have loved to see, like, I think, like, that needed to happen, or to bring in more of that violence, see a lot more, like, good guys die. Like, I would have loved to see, like, a giant team of judges go in, and they're just getting mowed down left and right. I mean, obviously that's Raid, but, I mean, how much violence they're putting in already, just seeing, like, CG arms just being blasted off and heads being mowed down. I think that would at least, for me, felt like that these guys were a threat when, like, Dredd kind of, like, went through the tower fairly easy.
Yeah, but it's like one of the best and most experienced judges up against some people that just live in a tower and kind of gangbang on the side. They're not experienced, like, war veterans or battle-ridden warriors. You know, they're just low-grade drug dealers that don't get into fights. It makes sense that Dredd would easily be able to take them out. You know, for a lot of them, they showed they were just dudes that lived in the area and would only battle because they were called to arms. But they were
Minutemen.
Yeah, they're Minutemen, and they're basically just hired to, you know, they're given a gun and they win by numbers, basically. I mean, two of them were just kids. They were basically like 14 years old or whatnot.
They didn't die, did they?
No, he stunned them.
He stunned.
Oh, yeah, because he yelled stun, and
Yeah.
not gonna lie, that kid is like every kid's dream, is just to be like, it's like the Nerf gun you always wanted. Because, like, the Nerf guns, you would always have to have, like, these crazy ways to change it to make it do something else. Well, now it's just the one gun that does all.
You just call it out.
Yeah.
Well, and they had that in the other Judge Dredd movie. And then you have other movies like Fifth Element had a gun like that. You know, where
I will say, like, I mean, maybe it's just me. I didn't think Carl Urban was, like, hamming it up or anything. Like, you know, I'm thinking back to, like, obviously Stallone. He's definitely chewing the scene left and right in that movie. I think, but, like, yeah, Carl Urban, like, pretty much just plays it straight, which is why I was really interested to know more about the character. And I feel like that's kind of like, I mean, maybe it won't be a missed opportunity when they make a sequel, but, I mean, you have a great actor, and, you know, I kind of want to, you know more about him. Not, you know, his past, but, like, you know, why is he so hell-bent on the rules? I know they explore that in the original, but, I mean, like, he's going to kill no matter what, even if it means hundreds, thousands of lives. Like, at the very end, he's just like, oh, it's a risk worth taking, and just, you know, shoots Cersei and then, like, throws her down the tower.
I did like that aspect, though, where she's like, if my heart stops, the first 50 floors are going to blow up. And I like the fact that he says, I wonder what the range on that thing is. You know, and the look on her face of, like, oh shit, I didn't think of that. I didn't take that into consideration, that my Wi-Fi can't go 200 stories. That was pretty smart, I thought. I liked.
Yeah.
And then just the look on her face, he would know that it's not going to blow up the building. I mean, he doesn't want to die either. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then hitting her with the slow-mo and throwing her through the glass.
She's not going to make it for the sequel.
No.
Unless she comes back as a robot.
Being controlled by slow-mo, by the big corporation.
Oh.
They have it in a big tube container that they feed him.
I forgot. That's how he kills her. He drugs her up, then throws her out.
Yeah.
He's kind of like Punisher in terms of how he wants to kill people. It's like the most violent way in the situation he can think of.
Well, the first person he kills, he uses the hot shot and basically throws a flare into the guy's mouth and burns him alive from the inside.
That's always fun.
Yeah.
I really like that effect.
I did too. I thought it was interesting.
I would have hated to be the girl though, because she's like, thanks, but it's also like, this guy just lit this guy on fire from the inside right next to me. I mean, sure, he saved my life, but like,
that could have been me.
Yeah.
I felt sorry for the guy who was helping Dredd who dies. Like they really
Yeah.
Like it kind of
I
stinks
knew he
that
was going down.
It kind of stinks that they just kind of like let it, like they don't have, there's like no tension, all just like, and they just keep walking. And then like, I think it's because like it's so upsetting because, oh, he killed this guy. And then like, you think, oh, okay, this is like what's the rest of the movie going to be. Oh, they're only in the next 5 minutes. And then it's back to Dredd just mowing down random gangsters left and right.
I liked the sequence with the miniguns.
Yeah.
Firing across the building. I really liked.
I'm surprised they didn't bring down the building right then, because like they were shooting through everything.
Yeah, they did fire a lot. They made holes in a lot of the cement around there. But I liked some of the camera angles. You know, like the upshot camera angle looking up the middle of the tower, and you're seeing it firing through. Some of those camera angles I thought were really great.
There's not much else I can talk. I mean, like, there's no story.
Did you like the fire, the incendiary thing? I thought that was kind of cool.
Oh, where like he surprises that group and they come in and he's like, "Incendiary." Yeah, like, yeah.
What did you think of the psychic stuff?
Oh, the psychic battle where I was like, "Hey, it's Miss Martian from Young Justice." Kind of remind, except it was like a R-rated where like he's like, you know, has a psychic vision or whatever, like what he wants, and she starts giving him head, and then it turns into Cersei biting it off. It was very different.
It was. You know, I was thinking if they do a sequel, they could explore some of that with her. You know, increasing abilities of being able to basically drive people mad with her mind. You know, basically taking over their mind.
I mean, it would be very interesting to see because, like Judge Dredd's just like, well, I'm still Judge Dredd. And, like, there's no resolution or anything about how he feels about her leaving and being like, yeah, this ain't for me. And, you know, if there was a second one, they could do more with that. I think that would be kind of cool. But, like, kind of right now, she's just kind of Ahsoka, the Dredd universe, and is like, peace, leaving the Jedi Temple.
Well, I think what they were trying to show is not that she quit, that she assumed she failed. Because she, you know, one of the rules were if you lose your weapon, you fail. And she had lost her weapon. But that's how that guy basically died, is he tried to use it and his hand blew up. So she was just assuming she failed, and she gave her badge and then she walked off. And then when the manager or the police chief, whatever, came over and he said she's a pass. So it means she's still a cop. She's still passed. She's in. She just doesn't know it. She thinks she failed.
Yeah.
But I thought later or earlier she was like, I'm not, I'm not fit to be a judge.
Yeah, she's still in that mindset because, she lost her weapon. She doesn't feel like she
Oh, okay.
did very
So it
well.
all had to do with the weapon. I thought like her, her mentality was different than Judge Dredd, which would have been interesting to.
I think it
get
was,
into.
but I think it was more about. I think it was also that she assumed that she had flunked out by losing her weapon. So I think it was both. So if you did a sequel, probably the first thing that would happen is getting her back into the story.
I don't think they need to really talk about it too much. Just basically say that she's still a judge because, at the end he says she's a pass. So you could mention it if you want, but the movie could just take place a year or 2 or 3 or 5 later and she's, a judge. I don't think you need to harp on it.
A crazy rookie mission. Your first mission is literally like taking on a giant fortress. It's like I thought we were just trying to solve a whodunit.
Yeah, like in Zootopia, it's like parking tickets, and here it's like, let's bring down the whole gang in the city.
Let's take down this entire. Which also another thing is, so that entire building would collapse. Like, didn't Dredd kill like most of those? And if not, she did. Because like with that Gatling gun and with like earlier on, like it just seemed like already half the population in that building was already dead. It's like.
No, they mentioned when they went in that there were 75,000 people that lived in that building. They must have taken out. They must have taken out maybe like a couple of hundred.
Maybe there's a lot of kills that we just didn't see, and
Dredd
was just like
they weren't going like they basically stayed on 4 or 5 levels. They were on the ground floor. They were on floor like 25 or whatever it was, and then on 36, 76, and then 200. So there's a bunch of floors they didn't even touch on. But yeah, there was still. I think that what floor was it? 76 maybe when they brought out the
Gatling guns.
The Gatling guns, the miniguns. That floor got screwed. Like there's a whole half of a building on that floor that is just dead.
Yeah.
Like no one survived that one.
I'm surprised. Like I feel like Dredd should have used the throwing people off the side like it's a Royal Rumble from WWE. And just kept launching people because, just this, because there's already like 4 or 5 bodies down there on the ground, just like a mound of people that he's just thrown off.
He did throw a few people off the edge. You would think that, in the future maybe they would put railings.
Yeah, I feel like when there's
fence.
that many. When there's that many people living in one building, you need to have security.
Or if you're walking on the ground floor, you don't walk in the absolute middle of it, just because you don't want to get hit by a random body that's falling through the middle of the building.
Also, like this world seems screwed. Like how they talk about, that there's 800 million people that live in this city. Which is insane, and they just what did they say? Like 6% of the crimes a year that they stop.
Yeah, they can basically get to 6% of the crime.
That's insane. Like they're not even making a dent.
Right, but it also makes sense how, Mama could have taken the whole building. Is they don't get very many judges to that place. So it's easy for her to take over the entire area.
This is why you get a board meeting and they're like, all right, we gotta sweep it up. RoboCop.
The one thing that the psychic powers kind of made me think about in relation to the crime was it was almost like Minority Report, how Anderson's like, let me tell you all this stuff about this guy, and Judge Dredd's like, oh, we don't have any evidence. And I was like, oh, it's almost Minority Report.
Right?
Well, I mean, he had to have a lot of faith in her, because she could have just been like, yeah, he totally did it. Okay.
So, since, there isn't too much more to talk about, I mean, basically I wanted to see what Alex Garland's first movie, did you see any parallels in the directing style? Like, I could see how he was basically trying things out, and there's a lot of stuff that I could see in his filming style that translated over into Ex Machina and Annihilation, especially with like color schemes. Whenever they were doing the slow-mo, all of those color schemes reminded me a lot of color stuff in Annihilation. Some of the... Now, Ex Machina is a bit different because it's a very calm, simple, very drawn-out drama, but...
I will say all three of his movies take place in one location.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Dredd, giant building. Ex Machina, really nice room. And then, obviously, Annihilation, the bubble, the
shimmer.
The shimmer. 2 weeks ago, I'm already like, I forgot what the hell it was.
Now, now that Alex Garland has some clout and, he's known for doing, can direct now, would you watch a Dredd sequel with him directing if they brought back Carl Urban?
If we get some money behind the movie, or if we don't get money behind the movie and just use squibs, it would look so much better.
Yeah, use squibs.
I would say hell yeah, because like if you replace the CG with the squibs, I would have enjoyed the movie a lot more, just because that's who I am. It's hard for me to get past.
Now, would you want them to get the big money to do a theater release, or would you rather see a Netflix-funded movie for a Netflix release?
Well, judging from the latest Netflix movies that have come, I would much rather have it go to theaters.
Fair enough. You don't want Bright again?
No, I don't want a Bright. I don't want Mute or Cloverfield Paradox or whatever.
Well, actually, Netflix didn't fund those. They bought them after the fact.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like distribute.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Dredd could do well in the theaters if they did a sequel. They would just need the money and a script that Alex Garland worked on.
Well, I mean, like you said, he has clout. And if they just make it doesn't even have to be because it's a Dredd movie. I mean, if it's just a good action movie that people are like, have you seen this? Like, I mean, a good example is look at The Raid. The Raid was not, a product or a brand. It was just a movie about a guy going up a tower and killing a bunch of people, and everyone's like, dude, you gotta check out The Raid. That movie's amazing.
As that thing about action movies, as long as the action is good,
yep,
and you can get a decent villain, you've got a good action movie.
Ian, Dredd 2?
I would watch it, but looking at the box office numbers, looks like it would probably end up being a Netflix thing, just because apparently the production budget was around $50 million, and worldwide it made 35. So, I mean, I would like it. I think they might need to work on the marketing, I guess. I don't remember a lot about when this movie came out.
I think
when it came out, though. Well, when it came out, there were a lot of production problems. I mean, that's why, Alex Garland is the director, but not touted as the director. So, I don't think the studio was really pushing it that much. From what I remember, it came out early in the year. You know, it was one of those movies that was kind of dumped in a month just to get it out. But it wasn't, I don't remember it being highly marketed.
Yeah, I didn't come out like in August.
It looks like September is when it came out.
Oh,
But
so like
that's a month back then when you would just drop a movie to drop
yeah.
it.
Your dump months were like January, February, and September.
what else came out around that month? If you could look, like what came out September 2012, like.
Let's see. The one thing I would say, though, in terms of making a sequel, is like now that you have Deadpool and Deadpool 2 and Logan, those types of movies, you might have a better box office response.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like there was anything really huge out. End of Watch, House at the End of the Street, Trouble with the Curve.
Well, End of Watch did pretty well. End of Watch was made by the same people that did the Denzel Washington movie.
Okay, so there was four new movies that weekend.
Yeah,
End of Watch, The House.
I think
Trouble
End of Watch
with the
won
Curve.
that weekend too, because it was it was by the same people that did the Denzel Washington cop movie. Blanking on the title, but the one that he won the Academy Award for.
Oh, okay.
And so that one had Ethan Hawke in it. That was Jake Gyllenhaal in End of Watch, I think.
Yeah.
And that one won the weekend. Everybody was kind of excited for that one. Dredd was like the fun action movie that people went to if they saw a second movie. Or if they're people like me that just like hyper-violent action films. But I agree with Ian that now that Logan and Deadpool and the hype with Deadpool 2, that you have room for some R-rated comic book movies that I think Dredd would really fit in, but I think they should, if they do one, they would need to get on it quickly. Because I don't think the whole R-rated comic book thing is going to last very long. I would say maybe a couple of years, and then, the fan base for that is going to not die out, but just not going to go to the theater for it as much. The PG-13 movie is always going to make the most money because that's your widest audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And R-rated action films tend to come in like waves. They'll have like a good 5 to 7 years that they'll be popular, and then they kind of go away for a decade, and then they'll like come back. And I think we're kind of like near the beginning, like in the first 2 or 3 years of R-rated action films being popular again. So I would want them to make it within the next year or two to get in on this whole trend.
Yeah. I mean, but as Ian said, most likely I'll probably still go to Netflix. Would you be more interested in a show?
No.
No.
Just like a one story and done.
Yeah, I think Dredd would work better as a movie. If you did a show, maybe a mini series, like a 8-episode story arc. But I wouldn't want like, a 12 to 24 episode
where you're getting
series.
into like the psyche and the backstory of Judge Dredd.
Because it's not something that has so much depth into it. Like you could probably get enough depth to do 8 episodes, or 3 movies if you have rotating good bad guys, but it's not like you have a huge cast of characters, and Dredd is not a hyper complicated character, and I wouldn't want them to make him a very complicated character. I like I like the simplicity of it. And I would want them to stay with that. So I would rather see like maybe 2 more sequels, make it a trilogy or something. You know, just do some fun action movies out of it. Make them
Of
really
him just killing a bunch of gangsters, and then by the third one, he eliminates every gang.
Nah. Just make it an unwinnable battle. He's just killing a bunch of people. I'm all for it.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, I think we should end it there.
Oh, you keep forgetting the rating.
Oh, that's right. Man, every time we do this, I keep forgetting the rating. All right. So I'm going to give Dredd from 2012. I'm going to say a B+ because I liked the fact that they explained the slow-mo scenes, the stylized filmmaking in the script. I really like that. Thought the violence was great. I thought Dredd was cool. Even though it was basically a remake of The Raid, I didn't care. I think it was still a fun action film. And I liked the simplicity of this one location, interesting bad guy, just kill a bunch of people and have fun with it kind of action movie. Give me my popcorn and let me have a blast, basically. So I'll give it a B+. What do you, Matt?
I probably a solid D.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah. The action was not good for the there was nothing very memorable. CG was, you can tell it's dating, and it was too similar to The Raid. I will say the pluses were it was shorter, so wasn't getting to that 2 hour, all right, let's start looking at the phone for the time. And I did like that it was one location. I will say, having said that it was a D, I would like to actually see a sequel with like practical effects, because the fact that this movie was willing to take a risk with how much violence it was doing. If they just went to practical, I would have been much more entertained. And so, bad this movie, but still eager if they do a second.
All right, what do you think, Ian?
I actually enjoyed this movie quite a bit, even though Matt's probably like thinking his mind's gonna blow because I don't usually like this type of movie. I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10.
What? Nice!
It was just really fun. It's not something that I'd watch every day, but I liked that it was a simple action movie, and I liked the characters. I didn't really go into it with super high expectations or anything. So it's not one that you're going to sit down and, it's not like a thinker movie where you're going to sit down and pull it apart, but for a fun popcorn movie, I really enjoyed it.
Now, I do agree with Matt that a practical effect action film for the sequel would be awesome. And I think they should go that route. Even though there was a lot of CGI in this one, I don't think they should continue with the whole slow-mo drug storyline. That was a cool little part of this story. I thought it was a great way of explaining the stylized filmmaking. But in a sequel, I would want them to drop that and do something a bit different in the filmmaking style of it and make it more practical effects so that it looks hyper real.
I know this is like a common, second movie type of thing, but I kind of like to see something like a Judge Killer, like someone who's like the equal of Dredd, so we can see just really cool action scenes where, both of these characters are just mowing down the opposite, forces, and then finally have to, collide.
Well, yeah, I think if they did it right, that would work. Maybe if it was like the thing is, you're getting close to the storyline from the other Judge Dredd. where you have the guy, the villain used to be a judge, and now he's a bad guy, so he's just as powerful as Judge Dredd because he's his brother in a way. I wouldn't want them to do that storyline.
Fair enough.
Maybe if it was where, he's not a judge. He was never trained by them and used to be a judge and then went bad. If it was just, he's a villain, he works with a gang, maybe he's an assassin, and he's just really good at his job. To where people hire him to take out judges. But I don't want him connected to the whole judges thing. I would want him to be just his own dangerous, hyper dangerous villain.
Yeah, I mean, the other idea would be like, some rich guy, puts a hit on Judge Dredd, and you just have like a bunch of different assassins. So kind of like John Wick, but
right.
like just have it like through this massive city where you're just like wrecking buildings and just destroying stuff to get to this one guy.
Yeah, maybe someone steals his bike and kills his cat.
Oh gosh.
Judge Dredd seems like a guy that would have a cat. He's a lot like me.
Or a turtle.
Turtle.
He's got a goldfish.
It's not the fact that you stole his bike and killed his turtle. It's who you did it to. Yeah. I think Alex Garland would be able to make... not just an action film. That, because of his experience with Ex Machina and Annihilation, that he would actually be able to do a really interesting sci-fi story in there.
Yeah.
Even though I really liked the, mindless popcorn-eating action film that was Dredd, I wouldn't mind if they went into a larger story, actual sci-fi, and I think Garland would able to pull it off.
I will say it does not sound like Garland likes doing sequels or wants to do sequels. Like, he has no intention of doing a sequel to Annihilation.
Or Ex Machina.
Yeah, and there's 2 other books of Annihilation. They came out the same year as Annihilation. He has no intention of like following up. And like, that's cool and all, but I mean, so this is a 3rd movie, and so this is, who would win, Dredd or the Shimmer? If Dredd went into the Shimmer, maybe that's what happens in Dredd 2. He goes into the Shimmer.
I figured they would do something with the mutants, Matt, but, whatever.
No, he goes into the Shimmer.
Or does the Shimmer come to him?
Oh my gosh, and he meets Ava inside there, and they have to team up, and Ava...
I think he would end up killing everything inside the Shimmer and eventually take out the alien.
He's like, this is kind of easy.
Yeah, he would be like, I'm already crazy, so you're not affecting me at all.
I feel a little funny.
I feel a little funny. I am the law.
Oh, boy.
All right, well, thanks for joining me on this for Dredd. Next week, we will be talking about the new Tomb Raider movie.
Someone else who is in Alex Garland movie.
Yes. She was in Ex Machina.
Because apparently this is... Yeah.
This is Alex Garland month.
Yeah, this is apparently the Alex Garland podcast, where we only do movies that are affiliated with Alex Garland.
Well, I think a lot of people don't know that Tomb Raider was the robot in Ex Machina.
Yeah. I mean, they do say that,
Vikander. Alicia Vikander.
Yeah, they do say that she was in... they do say she was an Academy Award winner and that she was in Ex Machina, but I mean, she looks somewhat different. I mean, obviously she has hair now,
And a body. Maybe
She doesn't
Yeah,
like
skin.
them.
yeah. There's a lot of things. I will say though that like, I think the average fan won't even know what Ex Machina is.
No, it would. It's not. It's a popular movie to people that like film,
Yeah.
but to the average Joe, they have no idea what the movie is.
I'm intrigued about Tomb Raider only just because of two people, her and Daniel Wu, who is the lead actor of Into the Badlands.
Right. That was a good show. I like that.
It's still on.
I haven't watched it recently. I saw I think the first season.
But yeah,
I also like Walter Goggins. I like him a lot too. He always plays interesting characters. So I'd like to see what he does. But really, I just want to watch, like I liked Dredd was a fun action movie. I'm hoping Tomb Raider is just a really fun, good video game movie.
and not Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
No, not that.
I would hope not.
But the trailers look like it is a decent video game movie.
I mean, it has the elements of the movie or the game. A little bit too much, but
Yeah, but if it doesn't have enough, it ends up being like the other Tomb Raider movies, which aren't great, but they're still fun action movies. They're just not great. So we'll be talking about Tomb Raider next week. We're seeing that this weekend.
then what's the week after that?
Kubo and the Two Strings.
Kubo and the Two Strings. In the following week, we got Ready Player One, and then who knows after that?
Yeah.
Maybe 28 days later, because why not?
Where did
finish
that
out
come
all-
from?
Well, that's another Alex Garland. He wrote it.
True.
Uh-huh.
We'll just do half the year of everything that Alex Garland has ever written, produced, or directed.
Welcome to the Alex Garland podcast.
Yeah, the Alex Garland podcast. Now, but stay tuned for next week. If you haven't started following me on Twitch, we are at twitch.tv/Koricon, and we will be doing another live stream for the spoiler discussion of Tomb Raider next week. Hopefully on the 22nd. If not, follow me on all the social medias. I will be posting about when it will happen as we get closer. It all depends on our work schedules and when we can get together. So stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching. Any last thoughts, guys?
No?
Okay, great.
Got it.
Bye.